Good afternoon, and thank you for the question, Mr. Trudeau. You put to us that voting is by definition, and in every sense of the word, uncool. And I would like to put back to you that politics, and not just voting, is by definition, and in every sense of the word, uncool. I put to you that it is the responsibility of our members of parliament to not only be national and legislative representatives of their people, but to be fully committed and engaged with the individuals they represent where they live, in their ridings, constituencies, localities. I believe that democracy cannot be reduced to a ballot box. And I fear that is something that has happened in our country today. That Canadians and politicians alike, those who vote and those who are voted in as representatives, tend to view politics as a matter of elections, as a matter of ballots cast and counted, which is by definition not a dialogue. You can't have a give and take, debate, discussion, dissent with a ballot box. You need two active and engaged parties in order to do that. And I put to you that it is the responsibility of our politicians, of individuals who have taken on the noble calling of being democratic representatives, of supporting and upholding the values of our democracy, to not just talk the talk of getting young people or all Canadians engaged and out to vote and to input themselves into the political process, but they need to walk the walk. As you yourself have done before your election to the House of Commons, in your involvement with the Katimavik program, in your speaking to young people across this country, you've walked the walk. You understand, and all politicians need to understand, that they have to be ever present in the schools, community centers, town halls of their communities, at the kitchen tables of their constituents, on the streets, in front yards and backyards, at barbecues, at graduation ceremonies, at local events that impact the lives of individual Canadians. Politics is very uncool, and our representatives need to not just be a national and legislative voice for their constituents. They need to be a real voice on the ground in their ridings. Democracy must be about dialogue, debate, and dissent. By definition, a two-way street at the very least. It is the responsibility of not just young people to step up and become involved, but it is also the responsibility of our representatives to engage us. It is the responsibility of our governing administration to improve the consultative mechanisms by which they speak to Canadians on policy issues, to ensure that there is meaningful dialogue on actions the government takes. It is the responsibility of all members of parliament, be they members of the governing party, backbenchers, or independents, to engage themselves in their communities. Young people have shown an incredible capacity for engagement. We see this on the various international campaigns and activities that young people engage themselves in. Never before has a generation been able to be so connected. So I would put to you that it's not young people's disengagement or disconnection by nature that causes young people not to be interested in traditional politics, but it's the nature of those politics themselves, which in Canada have become about elections and about on-the-floor politics instead of on-the-street politics. In my Canada, our members of parliament understand the noble calling of politics. In my Canada today, there are many members of parliament who do fully understand the noble calling that they undertake. But there are many more who are too busy debating amongst themselves to discuss the issues with their constituents. It is important that Canadians understand and that politicians understand that politics doesn't happen in Ottawa and during elections, but that politics and public consultations and public and civic engagement happens for everybody, in our homes, on our streets, and in our communities. What would I do to get my fellow young Canadians involved in politics? I talk to them. I help them understand that their voice does matter. But my voice is only so influential. They need to be talked to and listened to, not just by me and their peers, but by their representatives. They need to be made to understand that voting is the last thing you do in a democracy, and discussion is the first.